Hello everyone and welcome to the STEM Club. I will wait a few minutes for everybody to connect and then we can start. All right, I see our guest is here. So allow me to spend a few words about the STEM Club before we start with our next speaker. I know everybody is waiting for her because today we have a really hot topic. We're going to talk about women in science. So anyway, I'm one of the co-founders of the STEM Club together with my friends Piyush and Imran. We do research in different fields and in different parts of Europe. And basically we came together thanks to social media to make science easy and fun. And what we want to do is we want to bring together the scientific community and also help people to understand science better. So we have this live every week. And these are like informal chat where we talk about different topics and we invite different speakers from different backgrounds. So let's invite today's speaker. Give me like few sec. All right. Let's see. She should connect any minutes now. So anyway, I'll start presenting her. Bhargavi, if you are connected, please join me. I'm inviting you. So today's speaker is Bergavi Somasunder. I hope I pronounce it correctly. She's an undergrad majoring in microbiology at the Autonomous College affiliated with the University of Madras in India. And she believes in the power of social media to spread correct information about science and to create a safe space free of stereotypes to inspire the youngsters of all genders to grow into better individuals and also to take scientific career paths. But I still don't see her, so let's try to invite her again. Let's see. Anyway, when today she decided to talk about women in STEM, she's very passionate about it. And oh hey Bhargavi, how are you doing?
How are you doing? I'm doing good. What about you?
I'm good. I'm so glad we are here today. I don't know if you listen, but I was just doing a short presentation of
Yeah.
yourself.
Okay.
All right. So, but I don't see you anymore. Are you still here? Okay, I'm trying to invite you again. All right. Anyway, so today she decided to talk about women in STEM, and she's very passionate about. Okay, here you are again.
I'm so sorry. I had some technical difficulties.
Okay, don't worry. I hope you are fine now. Your connection is good.
Yeah, I'm fine now. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So you are very passionate about science and about women in science. And when we talked last week, when we invited you to the STEM club, you said, I hope to see more inclusivity in the field because science doesn't discriminate and neither should we. And I think these are beautiful words. There is
Thank you.
other there is other things you want to add to your presentation? You want to talk about more?
No, I think we should go ahead with our discussion, right?
Okay, that's good. So let's hit the topic. A few years ago, I read a book about women in science. It's called Women Inside 50 Fearless Pioneers Who Changed the World. And the book is by Rachel Ignatowski. And it really inspired me. So I want to know who inspired you the most so much to becoming so passionate about women in science?
Okay, yeah. So my passion for women in science, it only began after my senior year in school. And I remember we had this topic on structure of DNA. And my biology teacher, she made sure we knew the right details when it comes to the discovery of the DNA structure. Yeah, I'm talking about Rosalind Franklin. We know that she played a very crucial role in the discovery of the DNA structure, but she was snubbed off of her own contribution, and that was mainly because of unethical behavior and sexism. And I remember reading many nice things about her, like she was a very hardworking woman, and she loved traveling, she loved hiking, and every single time when she wasn't in the lab, she loved spending her time outdoors. And she also loved enjoying talking about science and politics. And overall, I guess one would describe her as a brilliant scientist and also a very kind hearted woman, right? So, when someone like her doesn't get acknowledged of her contribution, and the men involved, they had the audacity to release a statement after her death saying that her contribution had been critical. And any sane human being would find this wrong, right? Because it is. And these things, they are mentioned in the textbooks. So I felt like it was my responsibility to demand for fair representation of all equally hardworking women in this field. And I guess this is how I developed a passion for women in science. And before coming across this and reading about this, I didn't have the faintest idea about the importance of how important it is to represent women in science. And I realized this only later on, that is, after I entered the field myself. And my perspective on these things, they've never been the same.
It's totally true, and I totally agree with you. And many people, even now, they don't know yet the stories of these women in
Right.
science, like Rosalind Franklin, who had
Yeah.
really a huge impact. So,
Yeah.
connected to this, I was preparing for this live, and I tried to look it up in the internet, and so Google this word, like most famous scientists. And that's what happened. The first 8 persons, they were all male. There were names
Exactly.
like Einstein, Crick, also Stephen Hawking, but all male. The only woman was Marie Curie.
Yeah.
So do you think this increased the misconception of scientists being only male?
Yeah. So I believe it's not a misconception, but rather a consequence of how they are represented in our textbooks. And there is a lot of sociology behind this gender division. And this actually reminds me of an activity which was conducted in my class, which I would like to share. So our mentor, he had asked us to name all the male scientists we knew. And there was active participation from all the students, and we got a lot of answers. And the list went on, and it was almost endless. The next question was to name all the female scientists we knew. And shockingly, the response was very little from all of us. And that day, that moment, it proved a lot of things. And one of them was that this is a reflection. This is a reflection of a very sad reality of how students learn about scientists. And we need to change this. And, in order to achieve equality and proper representation, I believe that right education is important, and it starts from classrooms. It's about raising the next generation to see that every equally hardworking woman of any color, sexual identity, and every man is capable of doing great things, and they shouldn't be undermined for that.
It's true, and this is a really great, let's say, things to do in classroom,
Yeah.
and it's really inspiring. So I'll try to do myself when I help out my professor with their classroom at the university, because
Yeah.
it's great. I think all of the people over there, even if they took like science, that what they want to do, like biology class, but
Yeah.
they don't really know a lot of women scientists, and
Yeah.
that's great. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, so moving on, I was reading something like more specific about data, and according to UIS data, less than 30% of the world's researchers today are women. And also, I know for sure that at least in Italy, which is my country, what happens is there are a lot of women who do research. They are maybe a researcher or associate professor, but in the academia at the leading position, like the dean or other, there are only, or not really only, but the majority of them are men. So why do you
Yeah.
think this happened, and what we can truly do to reduce this gender gap in
Yeah.
science?
I understand that must be really hard to go through that. And this lack of representation and the entire existence of women, it persists in almost every field, be it science, technology, or commerce. And like I said before, this starts from the classroom level of patriarchy, where stereotypes like men, they are fitter for certain jobs and skills than women, and that it's considered that women are more delicate, tender, or unfit for such hard jobs. And these stereotypes, they are reinforced on students at a very young age. In addition to that, there are not enough female role models for young girls to admire and follow. And
Mm.
this also happens because of lack of encouragement. That also happens. And as women, we go up the ladder, they are usually labeled with very disturbing yet a very common stereotype, saying that there are certain jobs which are meant to be dealt with an analytical aspect, and that it's not meant for women to do it because they tend to get emotional. And these double standards, they exist literally everywhere, from workplace to academic settings. Men are rewarded for raising their voices and expressing big emotions, but when a woman does the same thing, she is shamed and she's labeled to be too emotional. How does that make any sense, right? And, coming to how we can reduce this gender gap, I think unbiased education, that is very crucial here, to inculcate proper knowledge to young students. So you need to start at a really young age. And understanding male privilege, yes, that plays a very important role here as well. Since male privilege, it is so normalized in this field, considering how most of the upper echelons are predominantly male, right?
Yeah.
And it can be challenging at times to recognize it, but when they do, it's their duty to make sure that they use it for the betterment of the female counterparts. And that's why over here, gender dynamics, they also play a very crucial role.
It's true. I totally agree with you. We have a question from the audience. Piyush, which is the other co-founder of the STEM Club, is asking, did you ever had the impression that it would be easier if you were a man?
I did. I think about that a lot. I mean, in my country, we have a lot of stereotypes, and from a very young age, men, they do not get labeled. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Just one minute.
Don't worry.
I'm so sorry. I'll be joining again. I'm so sorry.
All right, let's wait a few minutes for her to reconnect. And let's see if you have other question. Manasi is writing, hope the elders in our society are watching this too. Yeah, I hope, but it will be difficult. Let's see if she's here again. Okay.
I'm really sorry about that.
Don't worry. It's the good things about live, Instagram Live.
Yeah. So, as I was saying, the men in my society, they aren't burdened with the expectation of getting married at certain age. And over here, women, they get a degree just to look appealing for a groom. And that doesn't make sense. So, we do undergo a lot of stereotypes over here in my country, and the people, they are getting progressive, and it will change. I'm sure about that.
That's true. We have another question about the same topic. They are asking, do you feel yourself more pressure to demonstrate, oh, I lost it, to prove yourself because you are a woman, and how to deal with that. And also this reconnects to the next question I wanted to ask, how to balance private time and work since you are a
Yeah,
woman in science field.
yeah. Okay, so yes, there is a lot of pressure. I mean, compared to men in my family itself, there are a lot of pressure. And when it comes to, balancing private life and social life, I mean, the private life and work life, I'm sorry, I might not be in the position right now to answer it for everyone, but I feel like when it comes to work life balance, it's up to you. You know, it's up to you to find a scenario that works with your work style. And so it depends on the person, and it's all about prioritizing and prioritizing your work.
Yeah, always try to do the same, and I always try to make lists to help me in my private life, but also in my work life, so I can balance the two things. I don't know if it can be useful for
Yeah.
everyone listening. So next question I wanted to ask you is that many governments around the world have been introducing in the last 4 or 5 years these like quotas for women, but
Yeah.
some women are against it, and they say something like, if we are still discussing equality and rights as if they were questionable, it means that we are not at all equal to men, and we need favoritism in our job. So do you define yourself a feminist, and what do you think about this quota for women?
Okay, so yes, I do define myself as a feminist. Because for a very long time, women we've been deprived of space and opportunities. And I believe in equality, and everyone deserves equal space and opportunities, and irrespective of their gender, sex, and background. And everyone is born equal, and everyone deserves equal rights. It's simple as that. And coming to the quotas part, like I said before, for many years, women have been pushed back by the patriarchal norms of the society. And gender inequality, it is still a prevailing problem, and it has been for a really long time. And women in many countries, we still don't have access to all the opportunities. So quotas, they are measures which aim at removing this inequality, and it ensures that women, they get to hold powers in jobs or institutions or even companies. Some people, like you just said, some people might find it discriminatory, but this concept of quotas and reservation is just one small step towards removing inequality. That's what I feel. And coming to why reservation and quotas are important, it's mainly because quotas are focused on people who do not get the opportunities. And sometimes people forget to see that.
Exactly, and I feel it's kind of necessary in our society, and
Yeah.
maybe it should be like temporary. So till it becomes the normality to have
Yeah.
gender equality, we should keep up with that. We have another
Yeah.
question, but I think you already answered. Josh was demanding, what's the solution? Should we focus on removing the obstacles for women in STEM? Or should we instead resort to um, special reservation for women instead, which is better?
See, when you talk about obstacles itself, it's an entirely different topic, and the list is endless. There are so many obstacles faced by women. So you can start with that, but it's going to take time. So the first small step towards this is quotas and reservation. So you just start with that. It's just one small step towards it.
It's true. For example, moving to recent times, the corona pandemic has affected
Yeah.
and still is affecting a lot the research field. And I have read that the impact on women was huge and was really worse than men because of motherhood, homeschooling, and the whole family necessity, which in the majority of the country still relies on women. So what are your thoughts on that? And do you think that society or the academic institution could have done something more to help the women in science during this corona pandemic?
Yeah, so this situation, it has affected female researchers specifically, and particularly those in their early career stages. Like submissions to the preprint servers, it was found that those submissions, they rose more for male authors compared to female authors. And the moment the pandemic had started, so they had observed this, and female authors, they have accounted for only one third of all the authors who published in this era since January 2020, and just one third, which is really less. And as a consequence of the pandemic, female researchers, their positions in the institutions, it might be at risk as well because of this. It's a consequence of what happened. And there has also been a change in the entire publishing unit as a whole. So digital publishing, it prospered during the pandemic, but offline publishing, it either had to suffer a loss or it had to adapt and modernize to the new situation. And COVID-19, it has presented many challenges for each segment of the publishing value chain, right? Like, for example, when a publishing unit was given with a sheer volume and the content, it had to be reviewed, it had to be ratified, and there were new challenges which were found when it comes to the fact-checking unit. So, and also new distribution ways had also to be considered because of the, you don't have offline resources anymore. So new distribution ways have to be created. And yes, the institution, it does play a very crucial role, especially in shaping the career for women. And we need to prioritize women and early career researchers. They need to put their papers forward. Like you could help them by putting them front of each review queue. Like this is a really small step, which could actually make a huge difference. So each group, it represents certain kind of inequality. And when you do that, this helps. So this is an opportunity for all of us to think about how we can be compassionate for people who don't get the opportunities. You know, you can start, but the institution can start by providing online resources, better work at home resources, and, you know, for example, free conferences, and there are many ways.
Exactly, yeah. To facilitate like the role of the women in the academic field. Yeah, I believe that too. We have another question. Bara is answering, if we go through science history in all different civilizations, the percentage of women inside is always scarce. What do you think the reason of this? Do you think media presentation plays a role in this? Yes, I have some data that they said that if we look at this data from 1900 to now, we are increasing. Like almost 20% of researchers around the world are women, where in the past there were only 7%. Yeah. So do you think it will continue increasing?
Yes, you know, there should be an increase because we are working so hard to make this barrier go away. We are trying so hard to increase the representation of women in this field. And I feel like it all starts with the difficulties faced by them. Like there are so many difficulties faced by women. It starts by when a woman, she goes up the ladder and she is specified as a woman, as a group. And that's why women specifically, they experience greater performance pressure because of this. And when we go beyond this and when women learn to look beyond this, I'm sure this would help in the overall situation.
It's true. But do you think there are other minorities that are not gaining so much attention in the STEM field?
Yeah, so when we talk about minorities, they're not just women. We talk about different genders, different sexual orientations, races, socioeconomic classes, cultural backgrounds, and people with physical and mental disabilities. So usually in any kind of research, the sample size, it consists only of cis white upper class men. And this skews the entire results and the study. And intersectional cross-cultural research should be encouraged and it should be given fair funding and also provided with ample resources because they are willing to conduct unbiased research, which is the main essence over here. And coming to minorities in workplace, nearly 30% of the LGBTQ plus scientists and around half of the transgender scientists said that they had actually considered leaving their workplace because of an unfriendly or hostile environment, because of discrimination. So the first step over here is that scientists and people who work in the STEM industry, they should be aware that their colleagues, they can come from vastly different backgrounds and they can have different experiences, and they should show acceptance.
Yeah, and for me this is like super weird because they define themselves as like scientists, so people which should know more about
Yeah, exactly.
differences and the lack of differences between human beings. But at the end, like they are just everybody else, and they
Yeah,
don't really help these minorities to
yeah,
have a voice and to be represented in the STEM field.
yeah.
This is just so bad. I hope this will change
This
too with
changes. Yeah.
yeah. And connected to this, how do you think we can help the visibility of women in science communication, like what we are doing here today, but without generate any discrimination, especially connected to sexism or to racism? Can we do more?
Okay, so there are certain methods which I believe, again, I am not in a position to think that far ahead because I am still in my undergraduate and there's so much to see. But as far as I have observed, I feel like we can increase the frequency of publishing the papers and we can give them new resources. And I feel like science communication as a unit, when you look at it, it actually works like a small business. So it completely depends on promoting, and you need to promote. And when this happens, there will definitely be an increase in the visibility of women in science communication. And when they make their presence, I understand there is definitely going to be a backlash. So it's all about rising above that. And I also understand that the society, it isn't that advanced and that they can't just change overnight. So we need to start by normalizing at the grassroots level. And coming to racism and classism, which is involved, we can't simply focus it on just women, but I understand your emphasis on it. So we unite as women in science, but we are never just women, right? Our gender is only one aspect of our entire social identity and status. And all people, we have multiple intersecting identities, based on their race, their ethnicity, their nationality, their disability, their gender, religion, sexual orientation, their immigration status, and also their socioeconomic background. So if we only focus on the gender in science without explicitly addressing all of these things, and they're all forms of privilege and inequality. So when we don't do that, we fail to combat the entire institutional barriers which come along with it. So like I said, when we unite as women in science, we are never just women, we talk about everything.
Totally. I think all these, let's say, problems are
Yeah,
interconnected, as you said. So we should like broaden our horizons and talk it through. We have
yeah,
another other few questions from the audience. So Piyush, Plant for the Planet, which is the other co-founder of the STEM Club, is
yeah.
asking, do you think government should put specific schemes for women in science going through maternity leaves?
Yes, I totally agree with that. Like again, these schemes, they should come along with the quotas and reservation. Like we have specific things for these things, right? So when women go through this, I think these schemes also play an important role because we go through a lot. 9 months of sacrificing your body to make another human being is not a small task. So yes,
Totally.
everyone deserves it, and it's completely applicable.
Yeah, we should gain more support
Yes.
about it.
Yeah.
So other question, let's see if it's question or comment. Here in Brazil, we have this kind of system for minority groups. So that's great. Okay, another comment. I think maternity leave and paternity leave should both be promoted because it's about parenting and it's
And
not just
exactly.
about that's totally true. But after 9 months, as you said, I think women
Yeah.
should have particular
Yes.
help.
Yeah, I was being specific, but yes, I totally agree with that. I was being specific.
Yeah, I know you're right. So it's very nice that you are also chatting within each other in the in the chat. I like that. I have another question for you. So, in your opinion, how we can inspire young women to take this career path in science and in STEM? Can we start from telling them, as you told at the very beginning of our conversation, these untold stories of women in science?
Yeah, so, statistically speaking, I was really hurt when I came across this information. Women make up only 28% of the entire workforce in STEM. And men, they majorly outnumber this in the same field. And I feel that, equality is education and it starts from classrooms. And that's why, starting from school, it's very important to make young girls believe that they are equally capable of taking up a career in STEM. You can start by improving overall STEM education. You can provide them with resources to help them with their skills and their confidence in science and math. So, unbiased mentorship, that plays a very crucial role here. And speaking of, untold stories of women, one of my favorite Indian scientists, Nandini Harinath, she is a rocket scientist at the Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, in Bangalore, India. Nandini, she has worked on 14 missions in her 20 years of career, and it is so inspiring. I mean, she was also the deputy operations director for the entire Mangalyaan mission. And when
Oh,
asked about her exposure to science, she said that she got her exposure from a television series, Star Trek. And I found this so inspiring when I came across this. So, you know, being in this position right now, I might have not seen all the things. I'm still an undergrad student. So there's a lot more to see. I understand that. But at this moment, I'd encourage young girls to be fearless and optimistic. And I understand, I completely understand, and I empathize that it can be daunting at times to grow up and to make a decision about which field to follow, especially with all the gender stereotypes which literally come along with the STEM fields. But women, they can try to look beyond these fears of pursuing such a male dominated field, and I'm sure they are going to do astounding things and they're going to make their own mark.
yeah, totally. And I think in our small, we are like giving an example. We are very, very small right now, and maybe we cannot inspire so many people. But
Yeah.
if more women in science field can do something like that and can talk about it, maybe we can really help. And
Yeah.
I'd like to close this conversation with your word: if science doesn't discriminate, neither should we. That's beautiful. And if
Thank
we don't
you.
have other questions, let's see,
Yeah.
guys. If you wanna ask so other question, otherwise we can thank Bhargavi and close this very inspiring conversation. I really think that you are doing a great job about it,
Thank you
and
so much. It really means a lot.
yeah, and you were a great guest today. I hope maybe to host again you in the future,
Yeah,
so we can
sure. I
also.
would love to join. And I would also like to thank Dr. Piyush and Dr. Imran for giving me this opportunity. It has been great. And thank you so much for being such an amazing host. It has been a wonderful experience.
Okay, really thank you. So
Thank you.
if I think
I
that's
think
it. We
that's
don't
it.
have other questions. So
Yeah.
have a wonderful day, and thank you so much again for joining us at the STEM Club.
Thank you so much for having me. It has been a great experience. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye
Bye,
bye.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. And we will spread out information about the next speaker at the STEM Club. So keep up following us. Bye, everybody. Thank you.